Hello again from my front porch. It is a beautiful sunny day here in Iowa, although it's a little warmer as usual here in the front porch than it is outside right now because while the sun is shining nicely outside and beautiful blue sky up above, there's also a wind, and so the temperature is just a little chilly side. So that's why I'm wearing long sleeve. This is actually a newer shirt. I got Lisa had me do some shirt shopping here recently. She decided that well, first of all, she wishes I didn't wear so many button-up shirts, but you know I am who I am. But she also noticed that a lot of my shirts, the collar was starting to get really worn around the edges, and because I've been wearing them for so long. I mean, literally, some of those shirts are 7-8 years old at least, and so she had me get rid of some shirts, and we bought a whole bunch. I mean a lot of new shirts. I've got so this is one of them. I like it. It's a very nice shirt. But that's not what I wanted to chat about today. What I want to chat about today is actually something I know that I've talked about before, and sometimes I feel a little self-conscious talking about a topic that I've talked about before. But I recognize that not everybody sees every episode. I can't imagine why, but it's possible you might have missed it when we talked about this before. Regardless, it still is a timely topic to address now. And it became even more timely for me earlier today because I was engaged in some social media discussion with someone. Now, I don't tend to unpack all of my social media discussions here because they're different worlds. But again, this is a teachable moment. You know, we'll think of it in that context, and it has to do with the context of the conversation was the Second Amendment. And the person that I was interacting with that was making comments about how he didn't understand why the Second Amendment was being treated so special. In his words, it's just a law like any other law and can be changed and treated as such. No, it's not. It's not. I have here my copy of the Constitution. See, doesn't that? It feels very authentic, doesn't it? It's like on this old parchment type paper here and stuff. But this is a copy of it's actually what the Constitution of the United States actually looks like. If it was in better condition. I often, not every time anymore, but often when I'm in D.C., I go to the National Archives. And sorry, I was wanting to roll that back up correctly because I don't want that to get ruined. But I go to the National Archives and I look at the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and the other vital documents are on display there. They don't look near in as good a shape as this. They don't even look as good a shape as what you saw in the movie National Treasure. They have definitely faded over the years, but they're there and they're important. But the Second Amendment is not a law. It is not a law, and it is not equal to any other law. It is not. This document, the Constitution of the United States of America, is not laws. This is instructions for what our federal government can and cannot do. The founders set things up so that they were able to say, here is the power that is invested in each branch of the government, and here is what their limits are. Now, I understand that as time has gone on, we have lost sight of a lot of those things, that we now have branches of government doing things they were never intended to be doing. That's a whole different topic. And it's related. I don't want to just dismiss it, but that's not where I'm going with this today. But the Second Amendment is part of the first 10 amendments to this document that were that the Constitutional Congress decided they needed to have additional verbiage around these concepts to protect those rights. Because they had just fought a revolution against England whose laws infringed on these rights, and they were not confident that the government they were creating and setting up and defining here would not one day also try to infringe on those rights. And so, after much debate and wrangling, James Madison sat down and wrote out amendments. The 10 amendments that we know as the Bill of Rights was not his original list. They were all part of the original list, but he had others, and there was debate, and there was editing, and then finally the dust settles, and we have the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. Those amendments are not there. They are not laws. They are restrictions on government. Every single one of them talks about what Congress shall not do. Now, we've broadened that to mean what the government shall not do. And the reason we broadened that is because at the time it was written, Congress was the only one who was able to create law and implement law. We have now allowed both the executive branch and the judicial branch to create de facto law. And so, that definition has been broadened because of the unfortunate allowance of the other two branches to do what only the legislative branch was supposed to do. But again, another topic for another time. But the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, Second, Third, Fourth, all through the first 10 amendments, all of them are about what government cannot do. Congress shall make no law respecting blah, 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 blah. Now, Second Amendment is the hot button issue right now. For the record, I don't own any guns, any real guns. I have some prop guns that tie into TV shows and things that I enjoy watching and collecting things about. But I don't have any real guns. I have BB guns, I guess. That's as real as I get. But I am a firm believer in protecting what the Constitution and the Bill of Rights were intended to protect. There are a lot. This individual believed that the Second Amendment was just a law. And there are a lot of people who believe that. It's just a law. We should be able to change it. No, it's not just a, because if it is able to be considered just a law, then it is something that we are saying the government gave us that right, and therefore the government can take the right away. And if it applies to the Second Amendment, then it applies to the First Amendment, and the Third, and the Fourth, and the Fifth, and the Sixth, and the Seventh, the Eighth, the Ninth, and the 10th. The 10th Amendment, by the way, is one everyone keeps forgetting. That's the one that says anything not in this document, the Constitution, is a power reserved to the states, that the federal government isn't even supposed to be involved in it. If it's not referenced here, then it shouldn't be done out of Washington, D.C. We've totally ignored that too. But again, for another time. Second Amendment, it actually has two parts. Everybody keeps forgetting that too. Where one part talks about the right of citizens to bear arms, another part talks about a well-regulated militia. And the individual I was interacting with not only wanted to consider the Second Amendment just a law, like any other law, also wanted to say that it was about militias, and it was intended to set up would-be Rambos to have guns and wage war. That wasn't it at all. This person has a profile picture of someone in the military. It looks like, I don't know if it's him or if it's a relative, or I don't know, but you would think this person would know better than that. The militia was the military at that point in time. And so well-regulated militia, that's what they're talking about, the type of military that existed at that time. And now today, we have the armed services. And so you could say that our armed services have taken the place of that. And okay, I could buy that. Honestly, I could accept that. But that's only half of the Second Amendment. The other half talks about the right of the individuals to own and bear arms. That has nothing to do with the well-regulated militia part. It's just like in the First Amendment, where it talks about the different freedoms of speech and of press and of religion. These are all different freedoms that are referenced and protected. They're not all one continuous thing. They're separated by the commas. The commas are there for a reason, because these are connected but separate thoughts. Same thing happens in the Second Amendment. Same exact thing. And yet, A lot of people want to just scribble out that comma, just pretend it's not there, or just ignore it because it undermines the narrative that they want to portray. Now, I am not against gun restrictions. I'm not against gun laws, sensible gun laws. I think isn't that. But I do believe that any laws that are implemented that would infringe upon a Second Amendment protected, not a Second Amendment given right, but a Second Amendment protected right, any law that is going to infringe upon that better be for a really good reason. And I know, I can hear people now. Well, but we have all these gun violence things going on, these mass shootings, and isn't that a really good reason? Yes, it's a really good reason if the law that you're suggesting would have changed anything. I have yet to see one single law that would have changed any of the mass shooting tragedies that are all exploited by those who say we need to pass these gun laws. And now I see President Biden isn't even going to go with laws. He's just going to pronounce it by executive edict, just like the King of England did back when we fought the Revolutionary War. Which reminds me of something else this intellectual heavyweight that I was discussing with this morning also said. He said the Constitution is the only document that matters. The Declaration of Independence didn't matter. It had no relevance. Really? So when we say we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Apparently none of that's valid. Apparently none of that applies. Apparently none of that makes a difference. Nor then, I guess, would be the parts of the Declaration in which we said, as the American colonies, we're breaking away from you, England, because you refuse to respect these innate rights. Rights we were born with. We shouldn't need government to give us these rights. We have them by virtue of birth. And England, you're infringing on these rights, and so we're going to fight back. Now, if you really stop and think about it, I'm not promoting revolution here, just to be clear. But if you really stop and think about it, the context in which the Declaration of Independence was written it's a little scary at how similar the context right here in our own nation is becoming. As we now talk openly about infringing on constitutionally protected rights, and we have those in our population, a growing number in our population. I'm talking about this, referencing this one guy that I interacted with this morning on Facebook, but he's representative of a larger group of people who genuinely don't understand why we can't just do away with the Second Amendment. Why can't we just vote it out? Why can't it just be treated like a law? Why can't we pass laws that infringe and infringe and infringe and infringe and infringe? Because if that's what's best for society, there's the catch. If it's what's best for society, is it really what's best for society to infringe on those rights, on those constitutionally protected rights? Is that really what is best for society? Well, we got to do something. I agree. Let's do something. But the old adage of you got to do something even if it's wrong is utterly stupid when it comes to passing any law, but especially a law that infringes on a constitutionally protected right. If we're going to do something, let's make sure it's the right something. Let's make sure that it's something that actually makes a difference. Let's not just make it more difficult for law-abiding gun owners to acquire guns. Well, why do they even need guns? Why are they, you don't need an AK-47 to go hunting. The Second Amendment is not about hunting. Sorry to break it to you. That's not what it's about. It is very much about defense. And as much as, again, I'm not promoting revolution, but the intent of the founders was if the people ever do need to rise up against the own government that they created with this document, they would need to be armed. Now, I would hope that day never comes. I would hope that we continue to be able to work out our differences through the political process, through dialogue and debate. But increasingly, we are seeing where one side works very diligently to totally muzzle and silence the other side, to marginalize, to say you're crazy, you're stupid, you're ignorant, you're deplorable, whatever, and to say shut that down entirely. The only opinion that matters is us. It's not the way that we solve our situation in a peaceful way. That is the way we had an American Revolution. I don't want to see us go there again. Do you? We need to understand what this document does and what it does not do. And we need to make sure that we do our very, very best to maintain that. And we need to hold accountable those who serve in elective office who have taken an oath to defend and protect it, not undermine it. The Second Amendment is not just a law. It is part of this document, a document that is the core foundation of everything we as America are and everything we will continue to be if we don't mess it up. And with that, I will see you all next time from my front porch.